Welcome to the Abel Speaks podcast, where we speak to commonly asked questions by parents who have received a life-limiting diagnosis for their child. We're Daniel and Kelly Crawford, and we're glad that you've joined us. Today's question is, what do I say to strangers who comment on my pregnancy? And so I'm going to kick this right over to Mama Kay, because this was not something I encountered terribly often. So, you're at the grocery store, you're out in public, people love pregnant people, right? And they want to comment on how cute you look and ask if it's a boy or girl and ask all of these questions, and they have no context around what you're actually walking through.
Yeah.
And so how would you handle that?
Yeah. So first I would say that this is something that only the mom experiences, especially as your belly grows and you get bigger. And so even in that, I think it can feel isolating, and it can feel like even the person, your partner or spouse who is walking through this same thing with you, this is a little piece of the journey that really only you are experiencing. And so it's okay to put words on that, and it's good to share that with your partner or your spouse. So, but with that, there's not a right or wrong way to approach this, but I can share how I approached it. More often than not, I would just say, "Hey, we're really excited about being pregnant, and thanks for being excited with me. Our son is actually really sick, and so if you'd be willing just to pray for him and pray for us. If it comes to mind, then we would really appreciate that." And so sometimes I would get totally blank stares. Sometimes people would maybe feel a little uncomfortable, but more often than not, I would either get a woman who would say, "Oh, I actually lost a baby too," and they would feel freedom to share their story with me. Or I would get people who would feel really moved by the openness and vulnerability and would ask more questions. And then it was a dialogue where I got to share, "Hey, this is what the Lord is teaching us. This is what I've learned about the value of every life." And so it just opened up more conversation more often than not. And so that's how I typically handled it. But then there were also days where it was just like, I have less capacity today to engage in that conversation. And I would just say thank you and smile and move on. So you can, feel out those moments and just try to discern how to engage with the people that are in front of you. But I really tried to view it as an opportunity. And ultimately, I also viewed it as like, hey, every parent loves to talk about their kids, and that's what I had to share about mine in that moment. And so I took the opportunity, and it usually ended up being really sweet conversations that I had with people. And so that's how I handled it. But again, there's no right or wrong, and I just take it one day at a time.
Yeah. Other things I remember you saying other things I remember other moms asking is, it's almost like this, am I like failing them or letting them down and not being faithful in that moment? If it is one of those days where I'm just like, gosh, I don't feel like going into it, I'm in more of a smile and say thank you and keep walking kind of day. And I've heard you over and over again just grant them that freedom and that permission, mm-hmm. and just share some version of what you said prior to that, though, that is like, hey, and in a way where that's what's not at stake here is your love for your child, your faithfulness in the midst of what you're walking through. But what could be at stake is really an opportunity to integrate your baby's story into that moment. Like, your baby is alive and with you, and this is, with whatever the future holds, their life is happening right now. And if the goal is, man, I want to cherish and steward and really savor and fully experience my child's life, when the future, is so hazy, then those can be, they don't have to be, but they can be opportunities to do just that. And so I thought you said that really well. Is there any other things that popped into your head while I was just talking that you would add on?
I think that just acknowledging that as your belly does grow, that it can be hard to go out in public and get a lot of comments. Even sometimes it's often people will say, hey, as long as it's a healthy baby, and things like that. And so even in that, taking the opportunity to say, well, actually, he's not healthy, but we're so grateful for his life and that the Lord chose us to be his parents. And so just really speaking into the culture that we don't even always know, these beliefs that we have that we don't even always know that are there by the things that we just commonly say. And so again, it's not our responsibility to do that, but it is an opportunity to do that on the days that we feel capable and able. And so, and what I know for sure is that in every time I chose to share, the Lord gave me the energy and the words to say. And I've never had a bad interaction when I shared openly with people. And so I would just encourage people to think about next time, if you are going in public, what you will say if someone says something, and you're not going to do it perfectly, but it really can open up some sweet conversations.
Yeah, and what a tool for empathy in terms of not just in this conversation, but in so many others. I remember and it's like, you can laugh or you can cry, right? But it's like, gosh, I wonder how many times I said something along these lines to somebody, and I just had no idea, and I didn't mean anything by it. And applying that and kind of paying that forward in those same situations, I think can be challenging, but also can be a great opportunity just for growth in that area of empathy and extending grace and believing the best. And so that wraps up this episode of the Abel Speaks podcast. We'll see you next time. Hey friends, thanks for listening in. We hope this content has been helpful. At Abel Speaks, we exist to support families who have chosen to carry a child with a life-limiting diagnosis, and we want you to know that the foundation of that support is rooted in relationships. And so, if you're a parent in this circumstance, then by all means continue listening in, but we'd really encourage you to reach out by sending an email to support@abelspeaks.org. Again, our heartfelt prayer is that this episode has served you in some way and that we might have the opportunity to serve you further in the future. The Abel Speaks podcast is produced by the team at Tarno & Company and mixed and edited by the team at Sound of a Rose.